What you decide to work on is perhaps one of the biggest decisions you'll make in life. It will determine many of the most important factors in the quality of your life, including the people you meet, the amount of money you earn, how you spend a third of your waking hours, and whether or not you think that pineapple belongs on pizza. It doesn't. And it's also a decision that you'll likely have to make multiple times in your life. Gone are the days of a 40-year career in a single job. As an individual, location and access to information are no longer the bottlenecks in your career choices. All of the knowledge in human history is available to you instantly. All you need is curiosity and determination to become world-class in almost any field. Your means of making a living are no longer confined to the opportunities in your local area or your access to capital. You can stand out and reach anyone with just a little hard work and ingenuity. The internet has eradicated gatekeepers and created a level playing field along the way. Individuals are able to build massive amounts of leverage, meaning we have more control over how our careers and lives turn out than at any point in history. At every stage there are countless questions to ask yourself: entrepreneurship or employment, safe industry or emerging technology, relocate or remote, salsa or guac? Oh no wait, that was my delivery order. Let's just go with both, because all salsa and no guac makes Steven a sad boy. Every decision you make has the potential to shape how your life turns out over the next few years, making it easy to get overwhelmed and stuck in a state of indecision. After dropping out of college over 4 years ago, I've spent an unusual amount of time trying to figure out what to work on. From writing countless pages on all of the different options and all the different avenues that I could follow, to multiple mini experiments in entrepreneurship. I eventually landed on building a freelance web design business as my first step into entrepreneurship, but that was not a decision that was easy to make. At the time I had this inner conflict where I could see myself following multiple different paths, each with their own pros and cons. There was a safe option of trying to follow a more corporate career path. This would lead to a linear career and you'd kind of know exactly how much money you were going to earn at each stage. But at least in my case, I'd be trading my happiness and freedom for that safe option. And then there was the build your own company path, which excited me but also scared the shit out of me. I had very few skills, no money, and no real idea for a business. And finally there was the somewhere in between path of freelancing a skill and building a service-based business. And making that decision to follow a freelance path took me a really long time to come to, which in part came down to the fact that I didn't see myself as a freelancer for the rest of my life. The reason I actually made the decision to be a freelancer was to build my own skills, to develop a network, and really to build a foundation to create a business in future. And looking back at this time, most of what was holding me back were these invisible scripts in my own head. These were the reasons I justified to myself why I couldn't do something. What would people think? What would happen if it didn't turn out exactly how I wanted it to? And what was my backup plan if everything came crashing down? This lack of clarity can become completely debilitating. Realizing how difficult I found this decision in the past, when I recently had to return to the question of what should I work on, I decided to piece together a mini framework to make that decision easier. The whole goal of this mini framework was just to give me the mental clarity and the focus that you get when you know you're following the right path. These ideas very much build on top of work from people much smarter than me, so I'll leave links to anything I mention in the description. Okay, so the first part to this framework is to understand how to make better decisions when you don't have all the information. In an ideal world, to make the best decisions we possibly can, we'd have all the information available to us. We'd know exactly how things are going to play out when we make those decisions. But this isn't the case, and quite frankly, it would be kind of boring to live in a world where you knew exactly what was going to happen. Instead, we need to understand how to make good decisions whilst dealing with uncertainty. There's no getting away from the fact that whether you're just ordering a steak at a restaurant or you're deciding what you should do with your career, there's always going to be a level of uncertainty. As ex-professional poker player Annie Duke talks about in her book called Thinking in Bets, making better decisions comes down to thinking in bets. To make better decisions, we need to accept that there's always going to be a chance that things don't play out how we want them to. In the book, she mentions how there's two things that determine how our lives play out: the decisions we make and luck. What's important to remember is that you can make a perfectly good decision and the result can still go against you. Take ordering a steak at a restaurant for example. You could go to the best steak restaurant in the world, but there's no certainty that that meal is going to be good. Sure, there might be a 99% chance that that's going to be the best meal you've ever eaten, but there's still 1 in 100 meals that are not going to be great. And if you got a bad meal at that restaurant, it doesn't mean that you made a bad decision. And you could even switch the scenario around. You could go to a really crappy restaurant and have the best meal of your life. It doesn't mean you made a good decision, it's just that you got really, really lucky. First thing to remember when you're deciding what to work on is that all you can do is hedge your bets. There's always going to be a chance that it plays out wrong, but you can live with the peace of mind that you made the best decision in that moment, and then not let that bad result affect your future judgment. The second thing to do is to define your values up front. So what's important to you and what game are you trying to play? It can be easy to virtue signal to yourself and to others that you're only interested in socially acceptable values. But getting clear on what your actual values are is really important, because this will determine exactly what game you should be playing. Take a charity worker and a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, for example. They are playing completely different games, and that's likely down to the fact that they have completely different values. Before you can clearly understand what you should be working on, you need to understand what you value most. There's no set list of things that you should or shouldn't value. I personally find Julian Shapiro's personal value system to be the most helpful for me. Julian lays out these values as being the most important to consider when making a career choice. And those values are knowledge. Do you become more knowledgeable and skilled from it? Adventure. Do you acquire novel, memorable experiences? Fame. Do you build an audience you can later leverage? Power. Do you acquire resources and connections? Money. Do you increase your financial wealth? Exercising talent. Do you leverage your skill and creativity? Human connection. Do you bond with others? To complete the exercise, all you need to do is write down your values, and then rank them in order of most important to least. In the past, I thought that I valued money above practically everything else, but as I started to earn more money, I realised that I'd much rather spend my time focused on knowledge, adventure, and exercising my talents. And in return, I'm happy to not maximise my earning potential. Sure, I still want to make good money, but as long as I'm able to make a living, doing the things that I want to, having the freedom and autonomy to work on the projects that excite me, then I'm happy. Your values will likely determine what game it is you're trying to play, and what game you're trying to play will impact what actions you should be taking. And as you change and grow over time, your values will likely also evolve. When your values evolve, what you should work on will also evolve, making it really important to regularly check in on what your personal values are. In my experience, just writing out my values makes any decision about the future much easier to make. It's a way to objectively look at what's important to you. The final thing I try to remember is to live life in seasons, and I'm not talking about the 4 seasons of the year. When you're a curious person and there's a lot of different things that fascinate you in life, it's easy to try to do them all at once, or to get so overwhelmed by them all that you never take action on any of them. But the perfect balance that you need to pursue multiple different directions at once and make them all a success is often unrealistic. Life will likely get in the way, and instead of making meaningful progress in 1 to 2 directions, you'll end up half-assing and getting nowhere with a bunch of different things. Instead, I find the approach of living life in seasons, which is where you spend a period of time focusing almost solely on 1 to 2 things, to be a much more manageable and fulfilling way to approach life. By following this approach, instead of feeling like you have to pick one thing and giving up on everything else, you can commit fully to doing something for 1 season of life, knowing that in future seasons you can do all those other things. When you view your life and career in seasons, you realize that there's plenty of time to get around to everything that you want to do. It just takes patience, focus, and self-awareness. I'm currently 21, so let's say that I'm working on things for the next 50 years. If we say that a season is anywhere from 6 months to 5 years, then I have 10 5-year seasons, or I have 25 2-year seasons left in life to do everything that I want to do. For me, my first season was 3 to 4 years long. In that season, I focused on design and freelancing. And now my second season is focused on learning and creating things. And the seasons after this will likely look completely different. But it's much easier to put 100% focus behind my current work, knowing that I don't have to give up on all those other things that I want to do in future. They will just come in different seasons of life. Now, this approach might not be for everyone, because I know loads of people who do really well when they have multiple projects simmering on in the background. But in my experience, I found the idea of living life in seasons to be really helpful when you're indecisive because you want to do loads of different things. It then helps you to put your complete focus behind achieving one thing. Really, the idea behind this video is that no one can tell you what you should or shouldn't work on. I look at it through the lens of trying to minimize the regret in my life. So when I'm 90, what will I regret not doing? If I will regret not giving something a shot, then it's likely a good indicator that I should focus on it. Howard Thurman shared a really interesting idea on this. Do not ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive, and then go do that. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. And I think that that's a really great way to look at it. What you should work on really comes down to focusing on playing your own game, based on your own values, and optimizing for your own enjoyment. Hopefully you found these ideas as helpful as I have, and thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, then you might like the video that's somewhere up here, or this side, which is about my simple morning routine. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.